Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Alshareef with day number 14, saying Jazakumullah khairan for all of you who recommend this page to everybody. We had in the last day, mashallah, tabarakallah, like 300 people join our page. So Jazakumullah khairan to all of you who press the like button, wherever that like button may be, whether you press it down or you press it up. Jazakumullah khairan. Let's get right into the verses. We're talking about Surah An-Nahl, and there's so many different amazing topics in this surah, and I was trying to, figure out which one I should talk about, and I said, hey, you know what? Why don't I just talk about all of them, inshaAllah ta'ala? Yeah, make like a 50-minute video. Okay, so let's get right to it. Number one, jackets and clothing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in Surah 16, Surah An-Nahl, verse 81, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلَ لَكُمْ سَرَابِيلَ تَقِيكُمُ الْحَرَّ وَسَرَابِيلَ تَقِيكُمْ بَأْسَكُمْ. This is a really interesting ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells about the signs that He made for people to comprehend. One of the signs is the clothing. Because clothing, at least in Canada here, when it's freezing cold, somebody will say, oh, it's so cold outside, make sure you put your jacket on. And we don't think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created these fibers, created these fibers for us to protect us from the intense elements, whether that's intense heat elements or intense cold, or even in battle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتَقِيكُمْ بَأْسَكُمْ. And when people harm each other in battle, even the clothing that soldiers wear, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the materials for people to make jackets like that. So check it out. That's 16 verse 81. Another verse that we see in Surah 16, Surah An-Nahl, is the story of the Nahl. The Nahl means bee. So this is ayah number 68, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ أَنِ اتَّخِذِي مِنَ الْجِبَالِ بُيُوتًا وَمِنَ الشَّجَرِ وَمِمَّا يَعْرِشُونَ. In these verses, in the verse after that was actually ayah 67 and ayah 68, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَخْرُجُ مِن بُطُونِهَا شَرَابٌ مُخْتَلِفٌ أَلْوَانُهُ فِيهِ شِفَاءٌ لِلنَّاسِ. That this bee, it's such a noble animal, the bee. It's such a noble, is a bee even an animal? It's an insect. But this bee, it's mentioned in the Quran, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He inspired the bee to go and, seek, from the mountains and the flowers. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, speaks about the direction that the bee takes. I encourage you guys to check out the encyclopedias and look at how bees communicate with one another. How do bees organize themselves with the queen bee? How do they find places? They have this thing called a bee dance, where the bee basically does like a little dance for the other bees, and all the bees go and follow that one bee. Check it out in different encyclopedias. Maybe somebody can post a link so we can all view it, inshaAllah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from this little insect, from its belly comes a liquid that is different in colors amongst the different bees, and it has shifa, it has healing for human beings, i.e. honey. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created the bee, and indeed one needs to reflect and contemplate on the bee. The verse before this one, Surah 16 verse 66, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about cows. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنَّ لَكُمْ فِي الْأَنْعَامِ لَعِبْرَةً. And indeed you have in your livestock a lesson and a sign. Let's look at a cow, right? You have the excrement of the cow, you've got the urine of the cow, you've got the blood of the cow, the meat, and amongst all those liquids, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that from amongst these liquids comes milk. That's right. In the morning, you're waking up for suhoor and you're pouring this milk for your breakfast, for your cereal, and you're not thinking, where did this milk come from? It came amongst the liquids of blood, of excrement and urine, and yet it's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided and created in this animal to provide sustenance for all of us, inshaAllah ta'ala. So that's ayah 66 of Surah An-Nahl. Then we look at ayah number 58, where Allah subhanahu subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about girls and how the Arabs in, before Islam in Jahiliyyah, in their days of ignorance, where they used to prefer boys over girls. And I wanted to bring this up because unfortunately this attitude of preferring boys to girls is still prevalent in a lot of countries around the world, and it needs to be eradicated, because it doesn't matter what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with, boy or girl, it's all a blessing, it's all a hibah and a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemns those people who, when they have a girl, they look down upon it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا بُشِّرَ أَحَدُهُم بِالْأُنثَى ظَلَّ وَجْهُهُ مُسْوَدًّا وَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and when one of them is given the glad tidings of having a girl, their face becomes darkened out of sadness and grief. ظَلَّ وَجْهُهُ مُسْوَدًّا وَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. And they become annoyed and constricted, and because of that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with a girl. And so whenever you see this attitude of preferring boys to girls, tell the people, go and look in the Quran and realize that boy or girl, and I also say boys are also a blessing too. I'm not putting down the boys, I'm a boy too. Whether it's a boy or a girl, it's all a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the last verse that we're going to be talking about today is in Surah 15, Surah Al-Hijr, verse 9. And these are all in the 14th juz. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. That verily we revealed down a dhikr, the message, the remembrance, the Quran, and it is us who will protect it. Now, when it comes to the Quran, and I end with this, the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected. We have a blessing in the Quran. If you look at other religions and the scriptures that they have, their scriptures are basically like hadith or athar, like sayings of righteous people or something like that in their cultures. They don't really have, even their books, in the book, it's not even claiming to be from God. It's like a mixture of other people talking. Yet when you have the Quran, Ar-Rahman 'allama al-Quran, the merciful, He taught the Quran. This book is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, protected and preserved, and you have that huge blessing. I'm giving you little glimpses, little truffles of the Quran, but inshaAllah ta'ala, it'll motivate you to look more into the Quran and use it as a living manual for your life and for the success of your hereafter, inshaAllah ta'ala. Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidun. This is Muhammad Alshareef signing off, saying Jazakumullah khairan for everything. Okay? Take care. See you tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, and by the way, recommend this page to everybody. Okay? Thanks. Assalamu alaikum.